Morning. Can you imagine what it's like to be 65? Charles was 65, and he was a very successful dentist. And he looked in the mirror one day, and he didn't like what he saw. And he thought, do you know what? I look washed up. I look like I'm dead. I'm going to do something about it. So he did what, obviously, any sensible 65-year-old would want to do, who wants to live for a long time and have a great life. He decided to get into weight training. And he got an ex-Mr. Universe to teach him everything about nutrition, everything about weight training. And over the next 20 years, he completely rebuilt his body. So he was fitter and healthier looking than people 30 years, 40 years younger than him. Now, he got to about 85 and he said, do you know what, having a six-pack when you're in your 80s is a bit silly. Now, how many of you have got a six-pack in your 30s or your 40s or your 20s? The interesting thing about Charles, and this is Charles Euster, he decided at 85 that he would actually ease up on the weight training and he would actually start doing running, sprinting. And he holds the over 95-year-old age category for the fastest 200 indoor meters and 400 outdoor meters. He died this year, aged 98 and a half, unfortunately of heart failure, but as I say, that exercise was always going to kill him. But he's done a great TED Talk, which, has anyone seen his TED Talk? Well, watch it. It says why weight training at 93 and a half is a great idea. And he said age is just a number. It is just a number. And people in the past thought when they were 65 they were over the hill. Now the interesting thing is there's a few trends here. The first key message I got for you is that clients are going to be living a lot longer. You know all of that, but there's actually what's the implications of living longer? The implications are that they're going to have a lot of complexity. They're going to have a lot of choices. They're actually going to have a lot of make a lot of decisions which are not simple. Now, I don't know about you, I'm a big keen fan on technology, and I invest in startup businesses, and believe you me, that is not for the faint-hearted. Investing in businesses that are full of hope and not much else, as I say, is not for the faint-hearted. But technology itself is not going to answer all of the complex problems that people have. And this is actually your advantage. This is the best time ever to be involved in financial planning. And when I say financial planning, I mean planning, not financial selling. Because what your clients are going to have is a very long and winding road. You're going to have multiple relationships. You're going to have a lot of complexity. And in fact, this is a brilliant book to read. If you haven't read it, has anyone read this book? Okay, one thing you need to do after today is go and buy this book. It's called The 100-Year Life. And what essentially they say is that your clients are going to have a whole series of mini-retirements. They're going to have to retrain. They're going to have to work for longer. And not just have to work for longer, they're going to want to work for longer. Retirement is what you do when you retreat from society. And it's been shown that actually people giving up work, it affects their health, mental, cognitive ability, and their health disproportionately to actually stopping work. Some people think that retiring early is the answer. Well, what does retirement mean? So when you're talking to your clients, you want to say to people, okay, financial independence, that state when paid work is optional, you work because you want to, not because you have to. That's one thing. But retiring, why would you ever want to retire? I mean, since I sold my business, my daughter makes me laugh because she says, Dad, now that you haven't got a proper job, I said, what do you mean I haven't got a proper job? She goes, well, you know, you don't run the business anymore. I said, yeah, I do run my little business, my speaking and writing business. And so what I'm now trying to do is take all of that experience and knowledge of meeting people for nearly 27, 28 years of my life and to try and reach a wider group of your potential and future customers so that they are better informed about, first of all, that they need and want a financial planning service that is appropriate to their needs and delivers value, and that they beat a path to your door. So I am actually your biggest cheerleader, even though I'm no longer an active advisor. So get this book, and it will give you a lot of the stats. We've got a 50% chance of people being born today living to 107. 50% chance. It's frightening, the statistics. So here's the point here. Long life, lots of decisions, lots of different members of the family. They're going to need you. And that brings me to the next thing, your unfair advantage. Now, I know no one wants to admit they watch it. I love the dancing program, and I love this fella. He's just turned 23, AJ Pritchard. He started dancing when he was 12. And he only did that because I think his mum and dad ran a dancing thing, and I think he didn't want to do gymnastics or something. And he's now dancing with this lovely lady on primetime telly, and he's got a good chance of getting into the final. Now, obviously there are pros who've been dancing a lot longer. But he's got something they haven't got, apart from nice looks, and he's not too bad looking, is he? But he's got enthusiasm, and he's been taught right from the beginning. So experience is just what comes from doing something over many, many periods of time. So this is your unfair advantage. So what I would say to you is this. I know that you believe in yourself, but sometimes when we're dealing with older clients, we can start doubting that they might think we're credible. Is that fair to say sometimes? Anyone said that? I know it happened to me. When I was 29, I started my first financial planning business, and I did feel a little bit embarrassed talking to older clients. I thought, well, they're not going to believe in me. Here's the angle. This is the little strapline I think you can put on your websites. Can you afford not to have a younger financial planner? Can you afford to actually have an older financial planner? I'm sorry about anyone who's over 40, and I'm one of them. So here's my point. When people say to me, Jason, can you recommend a good financial advisor? I said, tell me what's your age. Tell me what's the big thing. What does good look like? I said, I would want to use a firm that even if I work in a team, I would want to know that at least someone in that team is under the age of 35. Why is that? Because I'm 48, and I want to make sure there's a good chance that you're going to outlive me. And that is what they're thinking now. Successful clients, they used to say to me, I'd say to them years later, why did you choose me? And they said, well, we chose you because, first of all, we liked you, and we thought you knew what you were doing, but also you were a lot younger than us. So we thought there was a good chance. In fact, I was the same age as most of their children. So there's an angle there. You can deal with the older clients by positioning yourself mentally and intellectually on this situation of a long life. Brian Hill runs a business, and you want to look at his website. He said, I've got a new one coming out. I'm redoing all that. But you just look at it. It's all video on his site about his clients saying how great he and his firm is, how he makes them feel, how they couldn't think of going anywhere else, the issues that they were going. I tell you what is powerful. This lady, her own video here, it puts a lump in your throat. I just said, Christ, if anything happens to Kevin, who's my locum, I call him my locum, he's there if I drop dead or get ill and looks after my family's finances, he's the guy I'm going to go to. I said to my wife, he's miles away, but who cares? You can use video technology. But that client testimonial on a video is the most powerful piece of marketing. It doesn't matter what you say about your service, it's what your clients say, how you make them feel. This is Kevin, lovely Kevin, as my wife calls him, ex-Marine. Kevin heard me do a talk a year ago and said you should get video on your website so that people can judge you, see the whites of your eyes before they come and see you, even if they've been referred to you, so they can get to know you and a sense of who you are. Because here's the thing, you know this, when clients come into your office, they would rather have their molars removed than be coming to talk to you about their money. They're not interested about money really, unless they're completely odd. But they would rather be somewhere else. So if you understand that they're in actually a high-stress situation, anything you can do to put them in the right frame of mind and make them feel in control is a good thing. Kevin has a video, which he does to camera. Now, I say this with love, because I love him to death. It's a start. But he's looking at the video, and he's doing this. He's obviously looking at his notes. And I said, Kevin, I'll come over and see you. I want you to look at me. We're going to put a side-angle camera on you, and I want you to tell me what you stand for. Forget the bloody script. Forget looking at the camera. Forget notes. I want you to talk to me as a human being, and we'll capture it on video. So what I would commend you to do is make sure there is a video of you talking to someone you know and trust about what you stand for and why you do what you do. Okay? Because that's what people are going to buy, as well as how you make them feel and their issues and concerns. It's why you do. What's your motive? And if your motive is, I just want to get rich as quick as possible and retire and buy one of those big houses that the footballers own, they'll see it in your eyes. Another thing to think about doing, and this is really important to establish your credibility. All of you know a lot of stuff, okay? Whether you've been in the business a year or you've been in it for 20 years. Because let's face it, there's a lot of people who've got 1 year's experience times 20, right? We've all met the older advisor who hasn't moved on since 1982. So here's the point. This guy, Leon Babrek, he has done 120 short educational videos about concepts. It could be Should I take a student loan? Should I pay my student loan off? This does not take a lot of time, it's not expensive, and he does them to camera, and in his case he has little animations coming down the side that sort of explain things. They're really engaging, and he pushes those out. Who wants a newsletter? Who wants a blog, for God's sake? Give me a short video that's a bit of fun, that explains a concept, and I'm falling in love with him and his firm. So I would commend you to think about doing some thought leadership, but do small amounts regularly over a period of time. Pete Matthews does this in Cornwall, and he's got more leads than he can handle. Now, Pete has got no more ability than anyone in this room. He's a lovely bloke, but he does the videos, but he does lots of other things. So I would commend you to think about doing thought leadership, because it's doing three things. It's giving value to the people who are thinking about your service. They're sort of forming a judgment about whether they can trust you. And they're also becoming more confident and better purchasers of service. Then they'll realise what they don't want to handle on their own and what they do want to handle. So that when the time is right, you can actually be considered to be working with them. Another organisation, in fact, I'm an investor in this business, so I just have to make it clear, Money Alive. The reason I put money in, I met them in a hotel lobby. They told me their business plan. I said, yes, I'm in. Just send me the paperwork and I'll do it. Because what they do is they create very short animated videos that explain key concepts like DB pensions or what is drawdown or equity release or something like that, that help people understand what actually the concepts are. So now you don't have to use their videos. You could create your own. You could create whiteboard videos, or you could actually, there are other companies out there. But think about it. Can you use short animated videos to help clients understand a concept when you're not in the room? Would that be helpful? How many of you here, I mean, I'm not really good at DIY, okay? So I have to look everything up on YouTube. There is a YouTube video for everything, isn't there? I had to lay a floor. I bought this property for a laugh to do up. And I cannot literally even hold a hammer. So I decided to teach myself every job possible except for the stuff that could kill me. And I looked at a YouTube video. And the YouTube video showed me how to lay a floor. And I laid a floor and it actually stayed down. It didn't all come up. And my wife said to me, who laid the floor? I said, I did. She said, you didn't. Who helped you? I said, no, YouTube helped me. So here's the point. Your clients are used to looking on YouTube, so why can't you access some material or even point them to other people's animations that could be good to help them understand? A client who's informed and understand is a good client. The other thing I think you really, really should do is this. Again, I invest in this business, so I just have to be clear, because this is where you can see where I'm going. Having your meeting rooms video enabled, or your study at home, or wherever you work, with high quality cameras and the very best sound. I'm not talking about this free stuff you use where you can hear people's dogs barking and all that and it's all dodgy sound. You have to have high quality sound, you have to have a high quality camera. You do, not necessarily your clients. And you need to have your meeting rooms video enabled for two reasons. One, it enables people to attend your meetings virtually if they so choose. And that could be, you may have a client you're dealing with and their mum and dad might want to attend, but they're elderly and they're far away. Okay? But the second reason, other than just virtual meetings, because people sometimes still like face-to-face, is so you can film how you're interacting with your customers. Now, has anyone here ever listened to themselves on a recording? Yeah? Or look back on it. You ever looked back on a video phone of you? It's normally on a night out somewhere, I know, I get all that. But it's quite embarrassing, isn't it? You sort of think you're cringy. The reason why people are so crap at dealing with people interpersonally skills-wise is one, because they've had no training, and two, because they've never looked and critiqued themselves. If you could be a fly on the wall with yourselves in a client meeting, how would you score yourself? Not how you think it went, but how it really went. Because when you say something, or you don't say something, or you don't let a client finish speaking, and you see their body language, you think, Christ, I didn't see that. I was on send, not receive. So I commend you for that. But I just want to give you a story about the power of getting this right, and not to get fixated about technology. Mark and Claire came to see me in 2007, and they were introduced by their lawyer. And I was doing a discovery meeting. I said, okay, so what does good look like to you? And Mark had run a software business. He was very successful, clearly a very driven guy. And he said, well, you know, I want to build the business a bit further and I want to sell it for £20 million and that's what it's worth and blah, 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 blah. And obviously a very proud man who'd come from not very much money, and he really, really worked hard, and you could see that this was all about his family. And then I turned to his wife, Claire, and I said, Claire, what does good look like to you? What do you want? And she said, I want my husband back. I want my husband back. I can still remember it now. It still touches me. I said, right. So Mark, why don't you just sell the business? Oh, it's worth 20 million and I've got to do this and I've got to do that. I said, Mark, okay. Mark, if I could show you how much you needed to sell the business for, so that work was optional, you work because you want to, not because you have to, and you could take a year or two off after selling, and then you get back into something. And Claire, you get Mark back at home in your lovely house with your kids. You've got your kids 4, 6 and 8. Would that be good? Well, actually, she's younger than that, actually. Would that be good? She goes, that'd be fantastic. Now, we worked with him over a period of 3 months, and we ended up showing him he needed £15 million to make work optional. He had a very, very full-on lifestyle. And here's the point. He ended up selling that business for £16.5 million. I know it's an enormous amount of money, but for him it was, but he felt he'd outperformed what the plan said by £1.5 million, big tick in the box. He'd stopped being anchored on this £20 million figure, which he thought was the be-all and end-all. And because I'd said to him, look, in my experience of working with people who sell their business, it's okay to take 1 or 2 years off to chill, learn a new skill, don't rush. I'm carrying that on for obviously 3 or 4 years, as you can see. But the point is with him, I gave him permission and I gave him the reason, but I supported her emotionally. Now, here's the interesting thing. 2013, Mark dropped dead of a heart attack at age 48. He came out of working with a personal trainer and he died in the ambulance. I went to the funeral. And here's the interesting thing, and this is a really important point to get. And a lot of people I didn't know, they said, who are you? I said, I'm Mark and Claire's financial advisor and planner. And I didn't rush up to Claire, obviously, because you don't want to overwhelm someone. And she came over to me. And we embraced. I said, I'm ever so sorry you've lost Mark. I can't do anything about that, but you know you're going to be okay financially. And you know that I'm here for you, and so are my team. And she said to me, no, I want to thank you. And she stood back, and then people are starting to look. Like it's getting a bit embarrassing, this. What's she going to say? No, I want to thank you. She said, because if you hadn't convinced Mark and gave him permission to sell his business, I wouldn't have had him for the last 7 years because he was going to die anyway. So I want to thank you, and there's nothing more I can tell you how powerful what you do is. And from that moment, I suddenly realised that what we do as a business and as a profession really touches lives. They had 7 years that they wouldn't have otherwise had. Now, it's not all doom and gloom, because what the real point I'm making here is that in the age of technology, what you really need to have is not just high IQ and great exams and technical knowledge. You need to focus on your emotional intelligence. You really got to be working on interpersonal skills, on communicating with people, understanding what they're saying. And you do that through having basically a focus on what drives trust, because if you have very high rapport with people and high mutual understanding and you get them and they feel listened to, then you're going to have high levels of trust. They're going to pay your fees, they're going to recommend you, they're going to stick around, and they're going to do what you say. There's a great paper here from Vanguard on trust. I recommend you get it off their website. It came out 2 months ago, and it said that the number one thing, 50% of the driver of high trust was emotional connection. 32% was ethical considerations, doing the right thing, right behaviours, and 12%, it was 32, but 18% was functional, doing planning and doing all the day-to-day stuff. And I think sometimes we get fixated about the outcomes and the outputs. So get that paper, it's really worth looking at. And bear in mind, we're all different. We've all got different communication styles. And if you've got a different kind of person talking to you, a reflector, and you're someone who's very expressive, you might not be on the same page, but you can actually, without prostituting who you are, you can actually adapt your behaviour such that you can make it easier for them to connect with you. And you do it through, obviously, learning all the different codes. Now, I know that you've got a NextGen have got a training programme on soft skills, haven't they? But there are other providers. Was anyone at the Financial Planning Training Academy yesterday here? Yeah? Well, I did a session yesterday, and I was watching people, observing them do role play, young people, in the 20s. And they are very, very good people, and just small little changes. This is not about not being who you are. This is about being the best version of you. And subtle changes about how to ask for the fee and link it back to what they say is important. And they said, do you know, this is amazing. So I really commend you to get some soft skills training. So really the issue I want to really say is we've got this 100-year life. This is what we're looking at. Very complex situations, and they need you as a younger advisor. That's your advantage. You should be using video in the different ways that I've suggested there, to a greater or lesser extent, and work on your soft skills. Now, just final thing I just want to say here is I've got a new book out, shameless plug. It's called Financial Money Moments, Simple Steps to Financial Wellbeing. And the reason I wrote it was because we need to help clients become more equipped. But we don't want boring, turgid books that no one wants to read. All stories. I've got 20 copies upstairs if you want to look at it or buy it. But the point here is imagine giving that to someone as a Christmas present, sending it to your clients, sending it to your clients' adult children. If it gets them on the right page, if it helps them, then you've potentially got people who are going to be clients for life. So I strongly recommend it. Just one quick thing on emotional intelligence. One thing I've learned, I've been married 23 years. And one thing I've learned is that what people say is not always what they mean. And the best analogy of this is we were just married about a year or two. And my wife, we didn't have much money. And I said, what do you want for your birthday? Oh, no, I don't want anything. Bad move. So I didn't get her anything because, you know, I'm like that. And we got to the birthday day, and I said, she was a bit frosty. You know, a bit off. I said, what's the matter? I've given you a birthday card. What's the problem? And it was all crashing and banging of pans and all sorts of stuff. I said, what's the matter? I thought, what have I done? It's not what you've done, it's what you haven't done. You didn't get me a present. I said, but you said you didn't want a present. No, I didn't want you to spend a lot of money on a present, is what I said. I said, you never said that. You said you didn't want a present. You know what I mean, or you should have known what I mean. Now, I'm very pleased to say that I have now realised that what my wife says to me is not what she always means, but I also realise it's what other people say to us is not always what they mean. So dig a bit deeper, and if in doubt, always get them a gift. Thank you.